Greetings, Halloweeners, to our spooky special of this month in science. My name is Nicholas.
And my name is Kristen. Today we'll be bringing you some spooky and exciting stories from all over the world, as well as some frighteningly awesome science performed right here at UAB. To start off, let's look at a study being carried out by Gary Vaughn, an associate professor of English at the University of Cincinnati. Professor Vaughn has recently been digging into the age-old Halloween question, why is horror so popular? Vaughn presented a lecture at the conference of the Midwest Popular Culture Association, examining FX Network's American Horror Story Freak Show. He looked into the allure of the monsters and dangers in the show, explaining that the program forces us to confront our own intellectual fears about difference, diversity, and fears of change. The freaks in the series have their own sense of justice and ethics, causing the audience to consider the out of the ordinary as part of our social desire to separate out people that we see differently from ourselves, including the disabled or the abnormal.
Sounds like the professor delved pretty deep into the mystery of horror.
I don't know if I could watch enough scary movies to perform that kind of study.
I wouldn't be able to sleep. Speaking of which, we have some good news for all of you night owls out there. According to a report in the journal Current Biology, evidence has been shown that 3 ancient groups of hunter-gatherers living in different parts of the world, Namibia, Bolivia, and Tanzania, don't get any more sleep than the typical American. Surprisingly, the group's sleep times average between 5.7 and 7.1 hours. Those amounts are at the low end of durations reported in industrial societies. Jerome Siegel at the University of California, Los Angeles, says that despite varying genetics, histories, and environments, these 3 tribes show a similar sleep organization, suggesting that they express core human sleep patterns, probably characteristic of pre-modern era Homo sapiens. I can hear it now. Teenagers using that story as an excuse to stay up later.
I hope my little brother doesn't see this. Our next story deals with a gigantic and terrifying topic, planetary destruction. Astronomers recently announced that they have spotted a large rocky object disintegrating into a spiral around a distant white dwarf star. The discovery confirms the long-standing theory behind the source of white dwarf pollution by metals. Andrew Vandenberg of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics tells us that this is something no human has ever seen before, a solar system being destroyed. The planet is also the very first to be seen orbiting a white dwarf star. NASA's Kepler K2 mission was responsible for the discovery.
That's a scary subject. At least no one was on that planet.
Very true. I think I'll stay on this one where it's safe.
Indeed. Ours is a planet full of people working hard every day to save lives. One of those people in particular, Dr. Irshad Chaudhry at UAB, has spent the past 19 years in the research of a single type of hormone. Chaudhry has spent the last 2 decades researching the effect of 17-beta-estradiol on bacterial blood infection by a microbe called sepsis. This bacterium has been responsible for many deaths, including the deaths of soldiers on the battlefield throughout history. In 2005, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency announced its goal of finding a way to stretch the time that a wounded soldier with severe blood loss could stay alive. They proposed a challenge with a simple criterion: produce a treatment that enables survival for at least 3 hours after significant fatal blood loss. Any research program that could pass that challenge faced a second: allow survival for 6 hours.
Out of 10 initial surviving blood loss programs funded by DARPA, UAB was the only one that met the challenge of 6-hour survival. Chaudhry wrote in his paper last June that if these study findings translate to the battlefield, additional time will be available for transport of wounded to safer locations, where standard resuscitation measures can be accomplished.
The discovery of the hormone treatment was actually an accident. In 1997, Dr. Chaudhry and postdoctoral fellow Renee Zellweger received the wrong shipment of mice, which eventually led to the discovery of certain types of estrogen hormones that inhibited microbial blood infection.
Can you imagine such success based off of an accident?
Perhaps Dr. Chaudhry could be the subject of our next story, which deals with how seeing mistakes can actually make us better thinkers. When confronted with the 4th of July decorations on Halloween, how might you react? According to a study co-authored by Daphne Oyserman, Dean's Professor of Psychology at the University of Southern California, people are more likely to think and act thoughtlessly, buying things, eating more, and performing poorly on cognitive reasoning tests when they encounter a cultural situation that meets their expectations. The opposite is true when people are confronted with moments of cultural oddities. Examples of this might include a green wedding or seeing flags and fireworks at a Halloween party. Professor Oysterman says that culture sets up a general blueprint for the way things should work, so that if things unfold as people expect, they don't have to think. The study's results show that people shift from a low-level associative thought process to higher-level systematic thinking when they encounter a situation in which something is awry.
What a bizarre study. Very interesting, though. Maybe I'll put up some Christmas decorations next Halloween just to see what people say.
I'm sure you'll get some strange looks from your neighbors. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in to This Month in Science. Once again, I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Kristen.
Happy Halloween!